untreated heartburn or acid reflux can lead to cancer, which is pretty crazy. If you want a way to force your body to permanently stop acid reflux and heartburn in 48 hours, click the link in the description below. For now, let's get to today's question.
The question, can a lack of good bacteria in the stomach cause acid reflux and heartburn? GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, Wikipedia, aka acid reflux, Barrett's esophagus, Wikipedia and esophageal cancer, Wikipedia are three of the most important esophageal diseases. At present dysbiosis, Wikipedia, microbiota, Wikipedia imbalance, in the esophagus is implicated in all of them. 1. However, which bacteria are associated with esophageal health versus disease remains unknown at present. On the other hand, the stomach inhabiting Helicobacter pylori, Wikipedia appears to protect against acid reflux. 2. 3. Only a few studies thus far have looked at what's different between healthy and disease-associated esophageal microbiota. Such studies have small number of subjects, and use different techniques to obtain the samples and to identify the microbiota. Such technical problems hamper understanding how microbiota changes influence esophageal diseases. Access to samples is no trivial problem. Biopsy, especially biopsy of the diseased portion, would be most optimal since the esophagus is known to harbor microbiota that adhere to the mucosa, but a biopsy is quite invasive. No surprise then that most of the handful of studies thus far opted to take brush samples or aspirates instead. However, such samples may not yield the same result as a biopsy. In order to discriminate a stable bacterial resident from a transient requires taking samples repeatedly from the same subject, but that is even more invasive and thus an even more difficult proposition. Results of most studies are thus one-time snapshots with no way of discriminating between stable resident versus transient bacteria. Antibiotics, PPI, proton pump inhibitor, Wikipedia, NSAIDs, probiotics are drugs that help mitigate acid reflux symptoms. Problem is they can also alter esophageal microbiota composition. 4. 5. Whether changes observed are due to the disease or the drug becomes a vexing question. Selecting candidates for a study becomes extremely challenging and expensive, since an optimal study should include large and similar numbers of individuals taking each drug. Real life is a lot messier, and it's much more likely that individuals are taking more than one drug at the same time or switching from one to the other. Different studies use different methods to identify the microbiota. Some use culture methods, others chose to amplify bacterial 16S ribosomal RNA, Wikipedia, still others opted for NGS, next-generation sequencing. Results between them are hard or even impossible to compare. Upshot is nothing too conclusive can be taken away at this stage. Expect that microbiota alterations appear to be associated with esophageal disease development. Key questions remain unanswered. Is such microbiota association causative? Do specific bacterial species drive dysbiosis specific to each esophageal disease? Bibliography. 1. Di Pilato, Vincenzo, et al. The Esophageal Microbiota in Health and Disease. Annals of the New York Academy of Sciences 1381.1, 2016, 21-33. The Esophageal Microbiota in Health and Disease. 2. Tan, Jiacheng, et al. The effect of Helicobacter pylori eradication therapy on the development of gastroesophageal reflux disease. The American Journal of the Medical Sciences 349.4, 2015, 364-371. 3. Vasapolli, Ricardo, Peter Malfurthiner, and Arnie Kanjulski. Helicobacter pylori and non-malignant upper gastrointestinal diseases. Helicobacter 21, 2016, 30-33. 4. Amir, Itai, et al. Gastric microbiota is altered in esophagitis and Barrett's esophagus and further modified by proton pump inhibitors. Environmental Microbiology 16.9, 2014, 2905-2914. 5. Rogers, Mary A.M., and David Demironov. The influence of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs on the gut microbiome. Clinical Microbiology and Infection 22.2, 2016, 170-81. The influence of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs on the gut microbiome. Thanks for the R2A, Bud Charles.